70 years, no two major countries on this continent have gone to war on this scale. That era is now over. A dangerous new era is beginning, ushered in by Vladimir Putin.
We're in an artillery position about 2 miles away from Gaza. The focus of this operation is now shifting from the north to the south. But that was where Palestinians were told to go for safety. Now, they've got nowhere to go.
Battles raging in the streets of southern Gaza. The Israeli military fighting in the heart of Khan Yunis, the largest city in Gaza's south. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have fled here for safety. This video shows the moment an ambulance was caught in the crossfire.
Amidst the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia, tensions in the Middle East are rising as Israel and Palestine struggle with their own challenges. It's a painful time marked by lives lost, families separated, and communities torn apart due to the unending turmoil in these areas. While we see the tragic side of war, there's a less obvious story where certain people and businesses actually make lots of money from it. Beyond the bravery tales, there's a secret world where making a profit matters, often at the cost of human lives and well-being.
The stock prices of the biggest U.S. weapons manufacturers spiked, many eventually climbing to their highest point in years.
Oxfam's deputy chief has resigned after a prostitution scandal involving aid workers.
It's the exact opposite of what you'd expect from an international aid agency.
Oxfam was accused of covering for staff who paid prostitutes in Haiti after the 2010 earthquake.
The national average for a gallon of gas in the U.S. is about $3.47. It's gone up about 8 cents just in the past week. And the key reason for that is that these geopolitical tensions are contributing to a run-up in the price of crude oil.
It's terrifying that we've had this much at this stage and we don't know what's to come. We don't know the half of it.
It's really scary. It's really hard for some people to cope, isn't it? It's just, where do we go? What do we do? We've all got to keep warm, haven't we?
War isn't just about battles and bravery. It also deeply influences our everyday lives, affecting our finances and the commodities we rely on. When conflict between countries erupt, it's like a storm that hits close to home. We feel it directly in our wallets. One of the most striking effects we see in our everyday lives is the sudden surge in oil and gas prices. Geopolitical tensions and war can cause significant spikes in these prices, directly affecting what we pay at gas stations, while companies that produces energy gain massive profit from these circumstances.
This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center.
Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours.
History is filled with instances where international conflicts led to sudden and sharp increases in energy costs. These price hikes ripple through the global economy, impacting transportation, manufacturing, and the cost of goods and services. Another example would be when soldiers are deployed onto battlefields. Ensuring they have adequate food becomes a crucial logistical challenge. This demand creates a lucrative market for companies specializing in producing food specifically for military use, such as dehydrated meats, oatmeal, chocolate, etc. These companies capitalize on the increased demand during wartime, supplying rations and specialized meals to the armed forces. The larger the military operation, the more substantial the profits for these food suppliers. And within their thoughts, they might actually hope for the war to persist, recognizing the potential for increased financial gains from ongoing conflicts. According to sources by The Guardians, the top 10 hedge funds made a nearly US $2 billion profit from the Ukraine war food price spike alone, raising eyebrows from across the world about their ethicality.
U.S. companies, including Lockheed Martin and Boeing, sold more than $23.7 billion in arms last year to nearly 100 different countries. And because domestic sales have declined in recent years, U.S. companies have all the more reason to look abroad.
In both of those regions, which are growth areas for us, we expect that there's going to continue to be opportunities for us to bring our capabilities to them.
We're working as hard as we need to work to fulfill the requirements of the contract. We're working probably 2 shifts every day, solid 5-6 days a week, and also preparing, to increase production incrementally.
None of the officials will mention Ukraine itself. Language is carefully controlled, contracts and meeting demand.
When conflicts arise, governments significantly increase their spending on defense. This means companies under the military-industrial complex, or MIC for short, involved in producing military gear hit a financial jackpot. They secure substantial contracts from the government to provide the necessary equipment for warfare, leading to significant profits. While it stimulates innovation and generates employment within defense-related sectors, the substantial government investment in defense can significantly bolster the financial prospects of companies like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and similar entities. This heightened defense spending often translates into immense profits, allowing these companies to amass substantial wealth from the production and sales of military gear and weapons. As the Russia-Ukraine conflict heads into its second year, the U.S. MIC weapons and defense contractors reportedly received nearly half of the $858 billion earmarked in the 2023 defense budget. While the U.S. assists its allies by providing military aid from time to time, the funds allocated for this purpose primarily come from hard-earned taxpayers' money, benefiting the MIC industries. Exploring the military-industrial complex reveals how wars not only impact economies, but also deeply affect people's lives. It shows how certain industries thrive during conflicts, making loads of money from producing weapons and gear. At the same time, it highlights how these profits can sway a nation's choices about where to spend its resources during challenging times like war. Not just the weapon manufacturing industry, entities or industries involved in the extraction, production, or trade of these resources stand to benefit immensely during wartime. Companies or groups controlling these resources can exert influence and reap substantial economic rewards from their control or trade, often at the expense of local populations or destabilized regions.
International aid is not entirely what it seems. Only a trickle of what's promised gets transferred as aid. Some of it is exhausted by the agencies providing aid. Some of it reaches the recipient countries but immediately bounces back to the donors, to the pockets of the very people who promised aid. How does that happen?
Certain industries experience a surge in demand and growth during conflicts. Defense-related sectors, including arms manufacturing, technology development for military use, and logistics, thrive due to increased government spending on defense. The influx of funds into defense-related sectors stimulates job creation and economic expansion within these industries. Moreover, investors and businesses frequently identify profitable opportunities in defense contracts and post-conflict infrastructure rebuilding, leading to increased economic activity. However, it's important to note that while these companies benefit, ordinary citizens often bear the brunt of the negative impacts caused by these conflicts.
Which are the donors that tie aid? Almost all of them. The US tops the list. In 2018, almost 40% of bilateral aid was tied. That's approximately $11 billion. Japan tied over 22% or $4.2 billion. Germany tied almost 15% or $3.1 billion. And South Korea tied more than 48% of its aid. Basically, all these countries promised aid, but instead of giving it to recipient countries, they gave the money to their own companies. So the aid money is, first of all, furthering their own economic interests.
As conflicts happened from time to time, essential goods and aid often intersect with economic interests, revealing complex realities in wartime economies. Funds donated for humanitarian aid, meant to provide clean water, food, and essential supplies, sometimes ends up benefiting corporations instead. This redirection occurs when aid money is channeled towards purchasing goods or services from these said companies, turning humanitarian aid into a profit-making venture rather than solely addressing the needs of the affected populations. Recognizing how essential goods and aid get tangled with corporate interests sheds light on the tough choices and moral dilemmas faced during conflicts. It shows how money-driven motives sometimes redirect resources away from easing human suffering, revealing a tough ethical dilemma in offering help during chaotic times, where the need for aid clashes with profit-driven interests. War creates a platform where political agendas intersect with economic interests, shaping outcomes and priorities. During times of conflict, certain individuals, groups, or factions often gain political advantages or leverage. This can range from increased influence within governments to the shaping of policies that align with their interests, including economic gains from the stock market that tied to wartime activities.
Senator James Inhofe of Oklahoma, who is on the powerful Senate Armed Services Committee, is facing all kinds of criticism today for purchasing thousands of dollars in stock with a defense contractor just days after successfully pushing the Trump administration for more Defense Department spending.
According to a report made by Business Insider, at least 20 federal lawmakers or their spouses hold stock in Raytheon Technologies and Lockheed Martin, which manufacture the weapons Western allies are sending Ukraine to fight Russian invaders. Members of Congress holding stocks coincides with the recent approval of $40 billion in defense and additional aid for Ukraine. The stock value of these companies, particularly Lockheed Martin, has notably surged following Russia's invasion of Ukraine on February 24th. Geopolitical crises and conflicts provide opportunities for certain entities, political figures, interest groups, or lobbyists to advance agendas. They leverage the chaos to push for policies or decisions that benefit their economic or strategic interests, further influencing the trajectory and outcomes of conflicts, and of course, their accumulated wealth. Seeing how politics and money mix during war shows that conflicts aren't just about fighting, they're also about power and making money. In the chaos of war, politicians seek influence, while businesses aim to profit, even if it means sacrificing stability and lives. Wars aren't just battles fought on the ground, they're tangled webs of money, power games, and tough moral choices. As we dig into the many sides of war's impact, the way resources are taken, industries grow, and aid meant for the needy gets diverted, we start to see something troubling, where there are winners that kept making money, and there are countless people that are suffering.